arthroplasty, and this might be somewhat confusing at this point because so much of arthroplasty goals seem to have changed over the past 10 years, not necessarily in the right direction. But fundamentally, as I understand, total knee arthroplasty is relief of pain, functional range of movements, which is a question mark today, limb alignment, question mark, long-term stability, and a securely fixed prosthesis. So let's look at some US figures. 2022, almost a million cases, revision burden considerable, and in a lot of these patients, the go-to fallback option has been to look at the fixation options. So why are knees failing in 2024? And you will see that aseptic loosening is the second most common reason for knees failing in this part of the world. And this is a similar fact that comes out in the Australian registry, and this is the data from 2023, so very recent. So in 2022, minimally stabilized knees were accounting for 76.8%, and the use of posterior stabilizer, and Andrew had mentioned this very elegantly, the use of PS has declined from almost to 13.3%, and the cumulative revision rate for the PS was considerably more compared to their CR counterparts. So the second most common reason for early revision and the commonest for late revision was aseptic knees, which accounted for instability and bone loss. So this happens because of various reasons, among them malaligned, inadequately fixed options, and this is really should be detected by progressive ongoing radiolucencies, which over time influences the implant position. So the high incidence of aseptic failures has sparked a renewed interest in the cementless options. I might add, there's mention about Bob Galante. I started my knees with Uncemented, and I stuck with it for almost about 10 years. These were my first few knees, the Miller Galante 1, Miller Galante 2, and we graduated to the TM monoblock tibia. So cementless has actually increased almost 24 from 12 to 20.5, and the cementless has shown reduced revision rate in men, but somewhat disturbingly increased rates in women over the age of 65 years. And the Swedish registry has similarly given increased data in this regard. So cementless option, the winning combination of design, material science, manufacturing methodology. The surgical technique needs to be exacting and demanding, and the patient demographics need to be clear. So what is the principle? You need a stable cement bones prosthesis interface with the immediate post intra friction fed and a surface that minimizes micromotion and promotes osteogenesis by close contact, dynamic loading, good bone quality, and precise preparation of bone surfaces. And the principle is substrate material, porous coating material, pore size, overall implant geometry, ideally in young active patients. Obesity is not a contraindication, and good bone quality. So the early experience was somewhat tenuous because there was very little bone growth. It was predominantly fibrous tissue because of the micromotion. And in the 90s, when we did this, these were these titanium fiber mesh, and we did this for almost about 8 to 10 years. Surprisingly, at 8 years, the survivorship was 97%, 13 years was 96%, and most of our failures were due to polybare osteolysis and ventulosis. Pretty much established my faith, and these are some of my early cases at 10 years and 11 years respectively with MG1 and MG2. This again was some long-term outcomes at 13 years. But then this started to happen. We started to see osteolysis and polyethylene wear. And the formation of these pseudotumors and medulosis. These were pretty catastrophic failures. And this happened because of the flaw of design of the flat articulation, the screw holes that facilitated osteolysis. The failure mode was rarely on account of interface failure, so that again was a positive. The biggest disaster really was on metal back, cementless, Patel implants, and this was a learning for most of us. So the high failure rates were also because of the interface failure of interface mechanisms, poor poly and metal back metal abutments. Having said that, there were lots of authors who reported good long-term outcomes. You can see some of these 97% at 20 years. So the minimum ideal mechanical property is approximately 100 micron and small sizes that prevents the migration, a high coefficient of friction providing a mechanical interlock, and good preparation in implant seating procedures which were critical to stability. So today we have these options: HA coating, plasma spray, and porous metal technologies. The 3D matrix increased friction, increased porosity, and reduced stiffness, and these are porous metal technologies like the TM and tantalum. And again, at midterm, it's 94%. At 7 years, several authors have reported this in literature. The advantages being that it eliminates the cement issues, reducing time for tourniquets, and it really works quite well in most patients. This is the real current iteration. We have experience of the TM type of cementless options, and this is the macro retinacular pattern of the TM profile. So these are biocompatible, bioactive, have a coefficient of friction between cancellous and cortical bone, and really attaches very well, and has a coefficient of friction which is very similar to cancellous bone. So these are other porous materials like porous titanium, which again have a high coefficient of friction, and HA coated implants have shown survivorship of 99% at 10 years, which is really quite excellent. We have other materials like the titanium, biofoam, and these are applied by 3D printing with pegs and keel. And it's important to understand that all porous materials are not the same. So again, when you look at literature, more recent literatures, excellent outcomes when compared to the cemented cohorts. So the revision rate is 0.8% at 10.7 years, and these are some of the more recent literatures in publications. So really, the recent articles complement the excellent outcomes and longevity of use of cementless when they're compared to their cemented counterparts. So these are again some more recent articles, some from this year. And the NJR data again comparing periprosthetic fractures reported no difference between cemented and cementless issues, fixation options. So these are some of our examples. These are patients where we did cementless. This is 12 years. You can see absolutely excellent coaptation and osteointegration. Another patient, again at 12 years, with no demarcation and wonderful results for these patients. Third patient at close to about 10 years. And most importantly, and this has been my learning, and this is my sort of take-home message, this was one of my earliest knees that I did 31 years ago. This is for those of you who may or may not be familiar, this is the Freeman-Samuelson knee, uncemented femur, uncemented tibia, but if you notice, this tibia is an all poly tibia. This is now 31 years, and this lady just passed away about 3 months ago. So just to say that cementless options, which I did 31 years ago, with no technology, no robotics, just a pair of hand saws and some very crude drilling equipment, has stood the test of time, primarily because we followed the fundamental tenets of doing totally arthroplasty. Thank you for your kind attention.